So thank you for the peeps that did come out. That's great. My name is Melissa and I'm the manager of the Interlake Tourism Association. And we have Tammy and Lana on this webinar as well to give some great advice. So I just want to start by acknowledging that we are gathering here on Zoom or throughout the Interlake on Treaty 1, Treaty 2, and Treaty 5 territory within the Interlake region. And just to note that the water I drink from is from the Shoal Lake First Nations number 40. So our program is here to provide financial support for projects that develop new or enhance existing tourism products, which most of you know. The projects contribute to the core of Manitoba tourism experience and is a unique blend of cultural and nature-based attractions and travel.
Just wanted to touch base for those of you that are folks that have applied to this program. The reason that we're doing this little webinar is that we really would like to see solid applications that have a good chance of funding come forward. And just to understand a little bit about our process and the program to make sure that you're making the most of the effort to make the application, etc. So we've had, this program's been around for 4 or 5 years. Again, it was created very much to support product development that may not get off the ground without a little bit of technical and funding support and move some new product to the marketplace. And so what we've been noticing is, even from the first year, that there is some confusion, a need for further clarification about what the priorities are for the program, how the process works, what the expectations are of the applicant. So I think that's why we put this together and provided this opportunity for folks who may be looking to apply so that they better understand it and they make the best use of their time they're investing on the application. And then from the review end of it, we have a review committee that takes a look at these, and there is a scoring matrix that is based on the priorities of the program and that these applications are scored against. And so we just want to make sure that you're aware of what those priorities are, and the importance of them, so that when your project comes forward, it is a good fit with that matrix and you have a pretty good chance of having a competitive process in that scoring. So that's kind of the rationale as to why we're here tonight. We want groups to be successful and we want to have good applications because our resources are so limited. We want to make sure that they're being invested in the best possible projects, and there's a lot of good projects out there with the right preparation.
So to start, we're just going to go over eligibility, criteria, granting priorities, and we'll look over an app and budget, example app and budget if we have time. And then we'll talk about the key documents as well as tips and tricks from Tammy and Lana. So what is a tourism product exactly? The tourism product or development is a good service or a package of goods and services that help visitors explore the destination that they are visiting by offering them a chance to view attractions, shop for souvenirs, take tours, or purchase experiences. So yeah, that's what we like to promote and offer. So we hope to give you some great tips on how to make this grant successful. So the types of projects that are eligible, it's anyone that's going to improve or expand the tourism sector in the Interlake and develop unique experiences. We want to support new tourism products and experiences or enhance the existing ones that are here. So new for this intake, what we want to do is offer some capital costs that are directly related with bringing in tourism, with creating a tourism product or experience. And we're going to allow up to $750 for that capital cost. So equipment costs, construction, anything that's directly related to your project. All right. So let's see here. Who can apply? So all of the above can apply. Projects must be located within the Interlake tourism area. I don't think you have to live in the Interlake area. We just want to make sure that the projects are executed and people are benefiting from the project in the Interlake area. And then if you are a collaborative group, or a partnership with a tourism group, the person who is applying is your group, but with the collaboration from either the town or the RM that you're in. And if you're getting any funds from them, then that would be a supporting document that goes along with that. Okay, so what are some examples of a eligible project? So community-based projects that enhance the quality of tourism. We want to enhance any readiness or market readiness for the tourism projects. We want to develop the experiences and tell the unique and authentic stories that we all love to be immersed in. We like to focus on cultural and heritage, as well as trail and nature-based outdoor recreation, which is really popular right now due to COVID and the nice weather coming. Agro-tourism and culinary tourism, wildlife and nature viewing. So some ideas of that might be like expanding your service into a shoulder season, so something that can happen throughout the winter time, or if you're offering maybe rentals along with your tourism experience so people can experience it better, or destination pickup and drop off post-COVID, of course. Yeah, and if you're doing wildlife or nature viewing, you could do birding or foraging, hiking tours, anything like that. I feel like I could probably do a webinar about ideas of what tourism experiences to create. So these are just a few more examples. So just let you know that I'm getting actually the slides are already posted on the same link that I provided before. So all of these slides are up there for you to review. So you don't need to take any notes unless you want to, that's fine. Okay, so the whole reason that the ITA would like to support you is because we know that people like to travel to experience new things. So they like unique places with variety and novelty. They want to learn about the cultural and natural history that surrounds them when they get to their destination. They want to learn about your lifestyles and how you live and what your experience is and how you like to share your experience with the area that you represent. Wildlife and wilderness is a big one. Outdoor activities with family and friends. A lot of people like to be challenged. Yeah, so they like to meet like-minded people as well. Whoops, I went back one. Okay, so criteria for this application. Probably the biggest one is that we want to see that you have matching funds. So any dollar amount that you are asking for, we want to see that exact same amount that you're going to put in. So if you're asking for 1,500, you have to demonstrate that you have 1,500 matching contribution. So the grant won't exceed more than 50%. What types of contributions are eligible for matching requirement? Matching contributions can be must be confirmed at the time of the application. So if you get sorry, I got distracted by an email. If you get funding from any level of government or another agency or your town or another organization, we want to see the documentation for that as well. So you can also have in-kind contributions up to 25%. So just as an example, if you receive a $1,500 grant, 25% of that in-kind contribution is $375. So we'll go into more of that right now. So what is considered an in-kind contribution? So the in-kind contribution is a non-monetary resource that partners and agencies provide to support a project. It could be donated professional services. So for example, let's say your project requires some carpentry work and you did your carpenter neighbor a favor back in the day. So now he wants to help you out volunteering on your project. So he can write you a quote of how much it would cost for him to build, say your raised garden bed or whatever you need. and you can use that to submit as the in-kind services and put that towards your funding sources for the grant as for matching funds. So, and then, or say, let's say somebody has the wood that they want to donate to you, they can quote that at market value, and you can prove to us that you got this amount donated to you in kind project materials. Excuse me. So the types of matching contributions that aren't eligible is if you write down, I volunteered this many hours on this project. Unless you are a business, you have a separate business that you're providing direct services, and you have an employee that's contributing that time, I think that would be okay. So when the committee's looking at these grants, the grant priorities that we look at are all right here. So I can guarantee you, and I know that Tammy's going to back me up later on this, is that the budget is completed properly. So that's the number one thing that usually people go to look for. And just to keep in mind that special consideration is going to be given to people who have not previously received this grant program. We want to see that it's going to keep going on an ongoing basis. So we want to see it benefiting for years to come. We want to make sure that you contact Community Futures East or West for scope and eligibility. It aligns with the priorities and directions. It's an effective use of funds. You demonstrated the matching funds, very important, and you can complete it by March 1st. So we also want to see that it's unique and innovative, and we want to hear the unique stories, and we want it tailored to specific tourism themes that you've come up with. Projects that establish market-ready products, and projects that establish experiences, immersive programs. So anything that could be a number of things. All right. So we just want to make sure that you review the requirements, your questions and your answers, and always ask a colleague to read and edit the application before you submit it. If you clearly articulate the problem and the barriers and how your program or how your project plan will address these, then you're ready to submit the application. Okay, so I'm just going to share a different screen. I'm just going to look at a sample of my, I think this is it. Nope. Sorry about that. Just going to share. Here we go. Okay, can you guys all see this sample budget? Okay, Lana says yes. All right, so when you're putting in your when you're putting in your lines, so for example, this example is creating a community garden at a local B&B, but it will also be for a community base, but also used for farm to table for the guests that come there. So it has a multi different aspects to it. I made it up. It's not real. So say we had, in order to expand on this garden that they already have, we need a tiller to rent, we need labor to build the fence, we need labor for video work because we're going to create some online workshops on how to garden. And then here's our capital costs. So we have $750 from Home Depot materials and gardening tools for the guests and community. So that comes out to $4,500, and that's okay. That's how much your project's going to cost. That's okay by us. Your project can cost as much as it wants. So the cash contribution that the applicant's going to put in is $1,600. So there's the total. And this person got financial support from another grant. So they put that in and we got the written accepted, or the grant letter from them as well. So there's that cash contribution. And then they have their neighbor friend who's the carpenter who's going to provide their services, and they have a written verified market value of how much that's going to be. So he's charging $375, the max for this $1,500 grant request. So as you can see, the funding sources equals $3,000. The project is 4,500, but this grant or this budget will automatically calculate your total request. So if you go over that, you have to alter these numbers a bit. So either you have to put more money in to match it, or you have to take some out. And then whatever the total confirmed B is, plus the tourism development request C, that plus that equals this. So sorry, not that. So that plus this equals this. So 4,500 matches total A, B plus C equals A. Okay. So is there any questions about the budget? I put in all the input so it will automatically calculate it for you. But if you do have any questions about this, feel free to reach out at any time, because the budget is always the hardest part to figure out. And I'd be more than happy to help you out with that. So I also gave an example budget, and it's in there. You can have a look at it. You can follow along with it, gather ideas of how they plan to, do their online presence and their breakdown and their activity steps. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 4, and the dates that they plan to have it completed, who it's going to benefit, the partners and how they're contributing, the impact and how they're going to evaluate. And there's the other budget. And then all of your supporting documentation, and then you just have to sign and review before you submit. Okay, so we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so key documents, the things that you want to submit with this is any letters or motions of support from all confirming contributions that are in place. So if the town gave you money and they're supporting this project, we'll need the letter or the motion saying that you can move forward with it. Copy of any quotes for the project. So this is market value. If you need, sorry, if you need a contractor, have a quote, bring it in. If you have a capital cost, you could get a quote from off Canadian Tire website or whatever you need and submit that. The $150 membership fee if you're not a current Interlake Tourism Association member. And then any letters of support from non-participating organizations in support of your project. So that could be, non-for-profit organization that really believes in what you're doing, or it could be, say you're doing your project in Selkirk and you get the town of Selkirk to, or the city of Selkirk to write you a support letter. So something like that, more the better. The deadline for this grant period is 5 o'clock on June 11th. So to be considered. And then the project must be completed by March 1st, and the final report is due March 15th, 2022. So once we receive that final report, you'll get the second half of the grant in the mail. You get the first half of the grant to the beginning, and once it's complete, you get the second half. So there's really 6 steps to filling out the grant application. Read the grant fully, gather your data, plans, and project details that are requested before diving in. And prior to formalizing an application, contact Tammy or Lana. Don't contact me. I don't have all the answers. Answer all parts of the questions as best you can, and reach out for help if you need more explanation. I'm certainly here to help. Give the budget request proper attention. So outline your matching funds, the request, make sure the request doesn't exceed the amount of the grant. The request is in line with your program plan outlined in the grant. So submit all support letters as well. All right, so this is the portion where I hand it off to Tammy, where she's going to share her screen.
When we were getting this together and talking about this and just some of the things that we were looking to hopefully have better, which just says my internet's unstable. I hope you guys can hear me. I really said, I put my hand up and I said I would love to do a presentation on tips and tricks for grant proposal writing, because it is something that I've seen not just with the ITA grants, but also just with a lot of grants out there. We also have a grant that our organization delivers, and we see this constantly and throughout the applications I've reviewed and applied for. So I just wanted to give you guys some hints and tricks today. There we go. All right, so there we go. So the question is, what do you need to do to increase your chances to having a successful grant application? That's what we're here to talk about today. So the big thing that I would love everybody to do before you start any grant application is review the criteria of the application. It helps you get organized, and it lets you know if there's anything that you're going to be missing or need to track down for the application. Like some people don't have copies of their financial statements, for example, but it might be a requirement of the application. So you need to figure out how to find that. And then the other big thing is if you don't understand something in the application, you want to have time before 4:30 on the deadline. The deadline's midnight and you're at 4:30 on that midnight date trying to figure out a question and you don't understand it, it's too late. So again, review it before you start. Ask yourself what kind of questions I don't know, and then find that information. And so again, I just want to really emphasize, do this early. You really cannot wait, because that will cause you problems down the road. All right, communicate. And for those of you that still remember the little rotary phone, I thought this was a really good little thing to remember, that we can still pick up the phone and talk. So call, email, whatever you need to do, ask the questions. It's really important to better understand that grant. And if it is a requirement of the application to call, you should call, because that again will help your application. There'll be a better understanding of you and what you're trying to do, and it'll definitely score you higher points usually. The other thing is that it's not going to hurt to communicate what you're doing, because it's really important for that grantor to understand it. So having a quick conversation with them can really kind of get you into the door, I guess would be the right way to put it. You need to understand if the grant is the right one for your project or your organization. Is what you're applying for what the grant funds? So I see a lot of people apply for something that's not relevant, not related to the grant. It's something they need. So, they've taken a long shot and tried it, but you really need to put your efforts in what's going to work for your organization. And you really need to ask yourself, do I meet the criteria? Or how can I meet the criteria is the other way of thinking that. If you think you can spin it, then you need to try to figure out how you're going to meet that criteria. The other thing that I really, I added this morning because it's really, really important. I woke up this morning and went, I got to add this. So again, the grant's there to solve the problem. It was created to address that opportunity. It's really important that you communicate how your project addresses what they're trying to solve. So, we have a grant that really is promoting regional development, and our solve is that we want regional development. This is not the ITA grant, but just an example. So it's really, really important to figure out how you're going to make your grant solve that problem. And you need to use keywords. There's going to be words in that grant application that they have. I've applied for a lot of accessibility grants over the years, and they use words like accommodations. And that's a really important word. So you want to use that word in your grant application. Use that wording when you answer the questions. That's really important to do. Know about your organization. This is another thing. Sometimes you get the new guy on the block to fill out the application and they know nothing. They don't know if you're incorporated. They don't know if you have the funds. They don't know if your organization has the skills or manpower to complete the project. They just think it's a great about your organization. And the other thing is, has your organization agreed to do this? Are they behind you? So that's really, really important. And the other thing when we talk about budgets and that, do you have, it's not just about money resources, do you have the manpower? Because that's really important when you're doing a grant. You might find the money and then not have the bodies on the ground to do it, which is really also important, because there's two things to a grant application. There's getting the funding, and then there's the reporting. And when you're reporting, you also need that person to be able to fill out that paperwork so you get the money. So again, do you have that volunteer time? Can it happen? This is my one. I had this as my first slide when I first created the presentation, and then I moved it because it just flowed better. But get the numbers right, please, please, please get the numbers right. I'm a numbers person. I review business plans all the time, and I'm checking your budget before I even read your application. That's me. Other people read the application and then go to the budget, but I want to know if you've got money before I spend my time and invest my time to see if this is worth the money. So check your math. Apply for the amount you're eligible for. So don't apply if it's 1,500 and your project's 1,200. Don't put 1,500, because again, I'm going to question you. Do you not know your math? Well, you only have a $1,200 project. Why are you applying for 1,500? A lot of people will just put the max and try to get it. Shows that you need the full amount. And again, do the budget. I've seen so many grant applications that don't have the budget. Don't skip it. Find a friend. If you don't like numbers, you're going to find somebody that knows numbers, that love numbers. They want to write it, but they will do the numbers for you. So again, don't not do it. And make sure you have really solid estimates on those costs, because again, you might be short. So that's really important to make sure that you ask for enough money. And then again, know what you put in. So what is the matching? What is the amount in kind that's allowed? Make sure you're, so again, know those numbers, make sure those numbers make sense. And that's really important when you're completing the budget. And again, you need to get those numbers right. I just can't emphasize that enough. Here's another big thing. This is like a biggest pet peeve of mine after the budgets is people that don't answer the questions. So you need to answer them, and you even need to try to answer those ones you don't know. You just take your best shot. And those questions are there for a reason. They might be one of the things on that matrix that Anna had talked about that might score you 10 points out of 50, and you don't answer that question, you get a 0. So you've got to answer those questions and just be reasonable, try to figure that out. Try to figure out what the answer is to each question. And the other thing is to put in all that additional documents. If you can't, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint on this. If you can't get them all in, and that happens, phone. That's about that communication. Call. And then tell them that you communicate that you can't get it in. It is coming. Let them know when roughly you think it's going to come in. But again, it's so important to communicate that to that grantor that you will get it to them. So that's, again, really, really important. So put them all in, and then if you can't get something in, let the grantor know it's coming shortly. Refer and expand on it. So this happens a lot too. People have one grant application that try to put in 10 different projects. And okay, that's okay. But I'm only going to say that's okay to a point. You can include it as an attachment, but don't say see grant proposal on each question, because again, people that are reviewing these grant applications are busy. They might have 50 and try to find which one of their questions is applicable from your in the can presentation. Not good. It's not good for the application. It's not good for that person reviewing it. They're not going to be happy with you, and you want them to be happy with you. So again, it shouldn't replace that funder's application. And if it goes into detail that you don't want to put into that application, again, put a couple of lines answering the question, and then say for details and further information, please see the proposal attached. That is okay to do it that way. The other thing is be clear. A lot of people will use jargon. I do it all the time. CFs, EDOs, I use those terms. Not everybody knows what that is. So when you're filling out the application, don't use jargon. make it easy to understand, you know, the KISS principle everybody talks about. That's really important. And don't add stuff that's not relevant. I don't need to know about your dog's day. I might want to know about your dog's day, but I don't really need to know about it if that's not what you're applying for on the application. And the other thing is that people do sometimes is they bury the ask. So they'll have 3 or 4 paragraphs and then they finally put in what they're asking for. Don't do that either. Get it out really quickly, and that's really, really important to do that. Follow up. Again, going back to that communication, make sure they received it. I had an email, I felt really bad that somebody had asked me to do something and it got put in my clutter and I hadn't had time to check my clutter and I found it a week later. So not even come through the filter. So just give a quick phone call. Just ask them, did you receive my application? Good. You know, that's really important. Put the read receipt on it. If you don't get a read receipt, that means they probably didn't get your grant. And I just want to leave you guys with a couple of things to consider. Do you know who's reviewing the application? That's really important. Is it a committee? Is it a board? Is it a panel? Is it an individual? Because that's, again, it can change how you rate the application. What you provide is what the evaluator has to go on. That's it. They can't read your mind and they shouldn't fill in the missing pieces. I know sometimes we're really good volunteers and we really try to work hard and try to help people, but at the same time, we can't, if there's something not there, we don't know what's not there. So really, really, really important that you provide that information and everything they ask for. And I just want to leave you with one really big thought. Good projects can lose out because of errors or inadequate information. And I've seen that time and time again. I've seen great projects, you want to support them, but if it's in a matrix, for example, and the first question is the budget correct? And you answer no, you're out. So again, great project, great idea, but they didn't get the budget right, they're disqualified. Not every grant is like that, but that is an example of how you can be disqualified. So really, really, really important that you put the right information in and you answer all those questions. So that's my, anything else that I missed, guys, that anybody else wants to talk about?
Just back on that slide you had, Tammy, about even if you're not sure what the answer to the question is, again, all the more reason to review that application up front and go through it and identify the questions that you're not sure about. And when you have that conversation with the funder, that's when you ask, right? The question to them is, I'm not really clear as to what the expectation is on this question. What are you looking for? So you know that before you pick up the phone, you know that what they're looking for. So I think it's even tough to say, you know what, I'm not sure what they want. No, you have an opportunity if you do the preparation to find out what they're looking for. They're not going to tell you how to answer the question, but they'll give you a pretty good expectation of what they are looking to evaluate based on that question. So do make that phone call, do talk to them, because as I put in the chat to everyone, the evaluators are so happy when you do this because it saves them time too. It's not a lot of fun reviewing applications that don't fit the criteria or the purpose of the program. So they really appreciate the fact that you pick up the phone, you get the details sorted out, and you put that little bit of investment of time in up front. So don't ever be afraid to do that. There shouldn't be anything that comes as a surprise to you if you plan out your application.
And what types of projects are ineligible? Any expenditures incurred prior to the project approval, expenditures not directly related to the project application, and ignore that capital costs. I took that out. So some examples are reprints or second editions, and that's online or printed, maps, guides, brochures, any maintaining current projects. So the maintenance, not really enhancing, large scale projects that are over 100,000, established or reoccurring events and festivals. So ones that constantly get the same funders and you know, they're just always, they're on the go. They're established. Updates to websites, any structural changes, designs or plugs, maintenance or upkeep of equipment. So you got to change the batteries in something. Well, it's not really enhancing any tourism experience there. So And that includes computer updates as well. So just to go back. So keeping it brief, the recap is eligibility, improve or expand the tourism sector, develop enhancement of product or experience, position to attract a high volume of new visitors and in the off season. Integration of regional tourism themes and unique local stories into tourism activities. The criteria, matching funds. We want to see those matching funds confirmed. Included in the budget, 25%, up to 25% in-kind contributions, contact community futures. Ability to complete the project by March 1st, no more than $750 in capital, projects under 100,000. And then the grant priorities, first time receiving, benefits the region on an ongoing basis. Application is filled out properly along with the budget. Project evaluation is realistic and measurable, market readiness, and you have the community support. So if there's questions, I highly recommend to contact Tammy or Lana. And if you are not a ITA member, which all of you are, but if you're not and you'd like to become one, you can contact me. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you being here and taking the time to make your grants awesome. All right. Thanks, ladies.